Michael.
Welcome to another edition of Talk to Me. And now here is Emmy himself, 8-time Emmy Award-winning broadcast journalist, Maynard Eaton.
And hello again. This is Talk to Me, a weekly conversation with leaders from politics, business leaders. And this week we're focusing on Atlanta's top education leader. Her name is Dr. Meria Carstarphen. How are you, Dr. Carstarphen? Welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, it's great to be with Talk to Me. I'm so excited to see that you're healthy and well in the middle of the corona pandemic. So good work continues, and I'm very glad that I get to have this conversation with you, Mr. Eaton.
Dr. Carstarphen, you've been here since 2014, but your contract was not renewed. What happened? I mean, everybody gives you high credit, high marks for turning the school system around. Was it politics, or you just tired and ready to move on?
Well, first, it was the contract was not extended. So I've always had a contract renewal at every year, and this one was a contract extension that was not voted on by the board. So I do think that this administration, with the help of the school board and the community, has done a great job in turning around Atlanta Public Schools to give the school system a chance, a fighting chance at being able to, be a quality school system, to prepare a quality workforce. And all of those things needed to happen for Atlanta Public Schools. And I think over the last 6 years, we've actually done that. And so we've talked before, Mr. Eaton, and the politics in Atlanta are pretty brutal, and public education has always been a political football in this arena. So Atlanta has seen the best of days and the worst of days in public education. I came right after the cheating scandal to help turn the district around, and something I believe needed to happen, not just for Atlanta, but for the state of Georgia and our country. You know that I was born and raised in Alabama. I'm here in my office, and that's the Edmund Pettus Bridge behind me. I carry it with me everywhere as a reminder when I walk into my office that I am I believe in social justice. I believe in civil rights, and I especially believe in making that happen in public education. I think that's it's something people know about me, and it's something I believe in. So I wanted to make that happen for Atlanta. I want to help, especially African-American kids who have been cheated before, get a fighting chance for a future. And so from where I sit, I've only had the best experience. I wish it had ended in a more positive way, but I know that I've done everything I can to support our community here.
Well, the board chairman, to me, gives you high marks. He said you took the school system that was in crisis and turned it around. There's a new direction now. With those high marks, that praise, why do you not have a job?
That's a question for him and for the school board. Again, I've had an evaluation every year. I've worked very hard to ensure that I had high, tough targets every single year, and that I was as hard on myself as the public would expect us to be. They desperately needed a team and a leader from the administration that was going to do all the systemic work, academic work, the business work of making sure that Atlanta Public Schools was in a higher quality place. I also, know that in my experience, I have a lot of expertise in turning around systems, troubled organizations, but I also know how to take organizations from being where they are to the highest achieving levels, which is something we were able to do in my former district as well. So, any questions about, the why behind their decision making is for the board. But But I would say that, we have built an incredible a team of people who understand more now today than I think we ever thought we would, be at because of COVID-19. I mean, I've watched people fight on the front lines every single day to do food distribution, to make sure kids got technology, connectivity, safety and security, health and student supports around social emotional learning, and even academics and books. So if anyone wondered if it was a new culture compared to where it was 6 years ago, you don't have to wonder anymore. APS is a district that does put children first, at least under my leadership. And it's my hope that people remember that and continue to drive a child-centered agenda and never go back to the days of politics and adult-driven agendas, which is easy to do when politics are in play.
Dr. Carstarphen, given that, what you just said, given your record, are you sad? Are you disappointed? Are you angry? Or do you feel politically victimized?
I feel like I did what my heart and what my faith and anyone will tell you. I'm a daddy's girl. He raised four girls. He passed away when I was here a couple of years ago, here as superintendent. And I think of those things like what makes me able to look at myself in the mirror every morning, to sleep with an untroubled conscience or heart, to feel comfortable facing my maker when it's all said and done. And I know that my father is watching me every single day. And with that, I mean, I feel great. I mean, I feel honored to have been able to serve Atlanta. I feel like Atlanta knows. I mean, peel off all the stuff that people like to layer on and churn and create drama on. But if you really look at the person, look at the leader, look at the work, um, I have been true to children and families. I have not taken anything for myself. I have led with integrity and with a belief that all children, especially Black and brown and poor children, disenfranchised families, were able to come back into the fold of a future. And I believe a future is anchored in a quality education. You just can't be competitive in a workforce, especially after COVID-19. It's like this is survival of the fittest. If you're not teleworking and teleschooling and have all of the skill sets you need to be a flexible worker and learner, then you are in trouble. And so it's part of the reason why, no matter what was happening at the political level, I stayed on the job. It's why I wanted to finish the job until the very last day of my contract. I believe that Atlanta's children and families deserve that. Our future workforce deserves that. I think the South deserves that because Atlanta and this metro area is an economic engine for the Southeast. And I want our children and Atlanta's future to be part of that. I don't think that every worker needs to be shipped in or people need to bring, their teams. I had to do that a little for education. And I promised that by the time I would leave here, that this district would have enough pathway, enough runway, enough margin to be able to choose people here in Atlanta to do this work. And so I would have, I feel great about where we are and what I've done. And I know I will leave this work with a good conscience. And I know that I did not sell out children. I did not give away tax dollars. As a matter of fact, I fought against that. And to be fair to the taxpayers, homeowners, kids, and our staff. And I will never regret that, ever.
Compared to the many problems you encountered when you first arrived, how tough has it been for you to lead the school system through this COVID-19 episode. Has that been the toughest of
Yeah.
your 6-year tenure?
Oh my gosh, it's well, Atlanta Public Schools is a wildcat in and of itself inside of
Yeah.
a incredibly intense community, and so to layer on a pandemic that is a killer virus is a little more than a normal job requires. And while we're not alone, of course, because there are lots of other companies and organizations that are going through COVID-19, but you're looking at Atlanta Public Schools where we just started turning ourselves around from the cheating scandal and the aftermath of that. And then we were trying to deal with that tax digest that was such a disaster, and trying to manage all of the things around constantly every year having to rebuild, rebuild the district's budget. It felt like every single year so that we could have a balanced, healthy budget. But, as it stands, I just think that we're looking at a completely different landscape for education. It will be changed forever. I don't think that the virus is going to settle down. We keep seeing new reports about what's happening with children, what's happening when the virus meets the flu season. We've seen all kinds of data about what people should be concerned about. And because of that, I feel like, that my job right now is to ensure that the school year ends well. And in our case, given the lack of revenue that the district is going to face, the lack of sales resources that our East Plus for bricks and mortar and construction and renovation is going to face, that I need to spend the next 2 months doing everything I can to leave APS in the most stable, balanced position possible. And so every effort I'll make is to ensure that things are set right and that the district has a fighting chance and that taxpayers don't end up having to pay for something on the back end because we didn't think about it today. So I know my work, I know my team, I know our commitment, and I know that APS will be strong until I walk out the door. I want to ensure that that is done for this city.
Will the doors open for Atlanta Public Schools in September? What's the future look like with regard to classroom education?
I was hoping you had the crystal ball. I don't. I think it depends on how our federal government and state government handle this virus. And so I've already started scenarios where you're on a rolling closure schedule, where I've been testing and piloting a lot of strategies that we're seeing emerge in the research from universities and pre-K institutions, especially out of Washington State, New York, and California, where these were some of the initial hotspots. I was just on a call with 66 of the largest urban districts in America before I hopped on this interview. And this is about like culling through what everyone is doing, because we're all at different levels and phases, and figuring out whether or not these things could work for us. And so we're testing them. So we're doing a lot around, of course, virtual learning, but we're also doing things around food pickups, drive-through models. We're doing a mail model where we're trying to send critical information directly into the home. We are using our transportation and bus routes to do some of this work. So it's about testing a lot of scenarios, see if you have to close and open, how all of this works. So we've launched, for example, a design called Get Our Kids Connected, where we're working with a large telecoms provider, Comcast and Xfinity, to have people help ensure that children not only have a device, but they have connectivity throughout the next school year. So the goal would be to either try to net or put a WiMAX design over certain parts of our community where kids are living in deep poverty or have minimal resources, to ensure that they can get everything from technology and connectivity to food and academics. So all of that is part of what we're doing. It's almost like you're running the old system and making sure that you can go back to that when things settle down, while you're running a parallel system that is incredibly virtual, but in a space that has been historically bureaucratic, and it hasn't changed in over 100 years. So, I think it was Reverend Lowry who said, uh, uh, everything's changed and everything stayed the same. That was one of his quotes from, you know, uh, 4 decades ago, and then he used it at Obama's inauguration. And he recently, passed this year, and I've been spending a lot of time going back over his guidance and his work, and that's the one that kind of sticks in my mind the most. That you have a system where everything is the same, but then everything has changed at the same time, and you're running these two things while trying to get social justice and equities and disparities addressed.
It's funny you mentioned Dr. Lowry. I work at SCLC, and I gotta tell you, student leaders from across the city and the country applaud you, particularly where you're from, Selma, but also for the work you've done here.
Thank you.
And you know that, don't you?
Well, I mean, actually, I was shocked. I was shocked when all of the challenges around the conversation of the position started emerging. I was touched by how many people, literally thousands and thousands of people, especially parents and caregivers, who hands down felt like we had done a really good job and they wanted more. And I don't think that has ever been clear to me, especially in my first years. You just don't know until someone tells you. And I think that all the indicators I saw where some pollster group did a survey of I think they used voters, but they also asked them, "Are you a parent?" And parents overwhelmingly, I'm going to say like 77 or 78% thought we were doing a good job, and felt like we had been, and that we were currently doing a good job. And that means so much to not just me, but all of the people on the front lines. I mean, APS had a very bad reputation. I didn't know if we could overcome it. I really didn't. But I have a lot of faith in people. We're an organization of people, big people, working with little people, trying to make little people better big people for the future. And because it's all about the human experience and the connection, I think that we did that. We changed our culture inside the system. I think the challenge is that it didn't really change as much outside the system unless you were directly involved with the district. So people still felt like, we could be a bank, we could be a hiring department for anyone. It didn't matter if they had expertise in schools or not. There's a lot of pressure on the district to be what it used to be. A lot of people made a lot of money. They made a lot of progress for themselves, not for kids or our future, by hustling APS. It's just a truth about how the district was treated, and I don't think that's fair to taxpayers, because it is disproportionate in this city. And then on top of that, I don't think that it was fair to children or their families who were depending on us to get their kids prepared for the future and ensuring that they could have options, choices in life, whether that's military or taking a job or going to college. That's our role. That's what we were supposed to be doing. And honestly, we fought that every single day, and I still am. I mean, I don't believe in what do you call it, lame duck syndrome and all that. I think you control that as a leader. It is your responsibility to fight against that. And so long as you sit in the seat and people are paying you a salary, and they are, I need to be doing my job. And I made that commitment to Atlanta when I took the job, and I promised that I would not turn my back on this system until the work is done, and it's not done. And but it is what it is, and I feel like we have done as much as God and the universe wanted me to be here, and things are gonna change, and I'm still prayerful and hopeful that it'll continue to be for the better for the sake of our city.
Well, Dr. Carstarphen, perhaps changing that corruption in the school system, changing it from a jobs program for friends and family, maybe that was your political problem because Atlanta is so ingrained in its political mischievement.
I mean, I think it's part of it. I mean, I haven't been quiet about it. I have pushed against unfair tax deals to developers that take money away from areas of the community that need development. I've been very open about the Development Authority of Fulton County, about some of the projects that came out of even Invest Atlanta. Any of these tax allocation districts and how they've been managed, which has been poorly for decades, has been problematic. On top of that, like, people just keep taking more, and my position has always been APS has a role. It is constitutionally allowable to use public school dollars in the state of Georgia to support development. Okay, we have a part. There are 5 tax allocation districts that this district is committed to, that we, not me, but other people before me, signed on the dotted line, and now we have to pay up. And those numbers are real. APS has already put well over $1 billion in development in
Wow.
this city. It will go up to about 1.5 billion once you add the gulch pressure into that design. And I think that that if we're going to have those programs, they need to be managed well. People need to be held accountable for the outcomes. I look at the one that's over there at Station. What's it called?
Atlantic Station?
Atlantic Station. I mean, they let that one run into. They never paid off the debt on the bonds in there, and so so the only way you can pay these things off is to keep extending them. And so there's a flaw in the way that that some of these resources are being used. I do think it's the underbelly of the Atlanta way that still should be challenged, that should be addressed head on. And I have seen traction in some of these areas, but by and large, I mean, I think some of the messaging is clear. If you push, too hard and ask too many questions, that doesn't necessarily bode well for people who are trying to make these changes. But I have seen people trying to make these changes, and it's my hope that that voters, that community leaders, that parents and caregivers, I mean, that the residents of this city stand up to some of these longstanding practices that I don't think have been healthy for us and will not lead our city to being as great as it could be. And I don't think you can ever be a great metropolitan city if you don't educate your public. If people are coming to the public schools and are taking this as an option, it has to be as high quality as any private school in this city. And without it, you're not, and knowing what we're Black, brown, poor, and greatly challenged. If you're not educating those people, then you're not educating the city of Atlanta, because that's about half of our population.
Dr. Carstarphen, where do you go from here? What's next for you, given this past 6 years? I mean, anything
I
else
don't
seems
know.
like it'll be a
I
breeze
want you
by.
to give me some advice. I've been so busy. Like, right when I thought I could start focusing, I was like, "Hey, school year's in a rhythm. We're about to close out the school year. Graduations are coming, and I know we know how to do all that. It's going to be great." And then COVID-19 hit. So then I went straight from doing my regular hard job to a mind-blowingly difficult context that no one had ever worked in. So you're really you're leaning on the people you trust the most to help you work through complicated problems. So I've had no time to spare. I have not probably taken the time that I need for myself, but that's okay. I do believe that, you know, I do believe that the right path will open for me to be able to do uh, good work for my community, for my country. Um, and I look forward to that. I am a hard worker with a lot of spirit and energy and a very creative mind. And I'm intense and passionate about all of that. And anyone on my team knows that if you work for me, you are working for someone who will never ask you to do anything I'm not willing to do myself, and that I will see it all the way through to the end. You don't have to worry about me pulling the rug out of anything. I'm there for the long term, and I hope to find a place here in Atlanta where I can do that, because I do want to stay here if at all possible.
Congratulations. Reports from again, Mr. Estes said that, well, whoever follows you, they will not be able to fill your shoes. They have to bring their own shoes. Does your successor, Dr. Lisa Herring, do that? What do you think of
I
her?
think that's an answer for her, a question to ask her. She knows her own capacity. She knows what she can and can't do, and you know, and like any organization, it will follow the pattern or the lead of the organization. So I am, like I said, I am hopeful that APS is successful. I want it to be successful, and I will do my part as I sit today to ensure that I hand off the strongest organization with a balanced budget, even though under COVID-19 and all the pressures of resources, we were notified last Friday that we can anticipate about $60 million of reduction pressure, cuts, or shortage in revenue. And so we'll have to, today, I'll be talking to the entire organization about how we get to that bottom line while taking care of people and still keeping our academic focus. So I think everybody just needs to do you, boo. You know, you do who you are. I've stayed true to that, and it served me well. And I'm hopeful that Atlanta Public Schools can continue on a path of improvement and success, because there is no group of children I've met in my career so far that need a city and a community to support them more. This has been through a lot, and I like for it to settle down once and for all, and give, you know, and have the district have a fighting chance at being excellent.
Finally, ma'am, one last question. How tough has this been for students, particularly those who could not graduate after all this time? This has to be
I know
a
oh, Mr. Eaton, it's sad. I mean, now I can tell you probably had a good time at your graduation. I bet you had a great date, and you got the fancy foot moves, and you got the corsage, and you did all the right things for it to be a very special evening for you and your date. And our kids didn't get a
that was
prom.
so
They
long
didn't
ago.
get any senior celebrations together. They didn't even get to pick up stuff in their lockers, much less graduate in a ceremony. So my heart goes out to them. I did an open letter to all the seniors. If you haven't seen it, I hope you get a chance to read it or share it with your viewers. But the thing that I wanted to say to them more than anything is that, you know, this is a generation that's living through the pandemic and the crisis, and they'll probably be the same generation that has to solve for all of the additional ills. So disparities and inequities have always existed, especially in Atlanta. We're the most unequal city for, I think, 3 years running, maybe 5 years now. I can't remember. But there's gross economic mobility disparity in this city. So if you were born poor and in this city, especially if you're Black, the data shows that you're likely to die poor and disenfranchised in the end. And that means that there's hardly I think it was a 4.5% chance of moving from the lowest quartile of economic earnings to the top. And so our kids were already facing that before COVID-19. And now these seniors, these kids who, are probably going to have a lot of issues about closure, getting closure. I know how it feels. I mean, this is my last year as superintendent, and these were the kids I met when they were in middle school, and you don't get to say goodbye. And it breaks my heart. It chokes me up every time. I can hardly think about it without getting teary. And I'm getting teary.
Dr. Carstarphen, you're
I'm
quite a young
sorry,
lady.
but it's hard on me, but it's really hard on them. They're just the kids. You know what I mean? And so we're doing a virtual celebration for them. We just kicked off today with our valedictorians, salutatorians, and STAR students and STAR teachers to get the celebration stuff started. But we're going to do a virtual, and then I'm trying to set up so that they have options in the future around open air ceremonies, if at all possible. So, those are the things that we're trying to do. I did a Instagram town hall with them, and they are just crushed. They're crushed. They can't believe it's happening, but it is. But they're good kids. I haven't met a kid in APS that, even when they've been naughty, that you can't find a way to love. And this class was such a good class. They were my little civil rights advocates. I don't know when the gun violence was really picking up in schools a couple of years ago. They were the middle school students who stood up and did all of the nonviolent protest. And since then, they've done climate change. They've even lobbied to take beef off the school menus. I mean, they have been a hoot to work with and a joy. I mean, they just have been the best. And I just want, it's just so hard because we don't get to do the goodbye that I'm used to experiencing at the end of a school year. So I think this one will sit in my heart for the rest of my life. Atlanta has a way of getting in you, and
I see you. Dr. Carstarphen, thank you for all you've done. We salute you for your career. Thank you for your sobering and straightforward answers. The best to you in the future.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
This week. This has been Talk to Me. Next week, we'll continue with education. We'll be talking to Dr. David Mitchell, the founder of Book, Better Opportunities for Our Kids. See you then. Thank you, Dr. Carstarphen.
Bye-bye. Thank you.